Hello my friends and welcome. Let's start this one from the good news coming from the Russian oil port of Tuapse. You can see 1, 2, 3, something is burning in those locations. Well, let me remind you that around 1 month or 1 month and a half ago, Ukraine already hit this facility with the help of the drone boats. Back then the attack happened during the daytime. Well, the last night it was an aerial strike with the help of the FP1 drones. From the initial information coming, so the critical part of the Russian port infrastructure, and it is the biggest port in the Black Sea for Russia, well, it was critically damaged once again. Ukraine probably waits for Russia to repair their facilities and later on one more strike, then again and again. Also in the middle you can see some sort of the ship. Initially I thought it's the oil tanker, but no, apparently it is just a bulker. Yeah, there were so many images coming from the Russian Tuapse port, and of course I shared everything of that on my Telegram channel right away. Also near the Kerch Strait, in the port of Caucasus, the Russian tugboat caught fire. Just like that, without any strikes. Maybe just tired, but you can see that it was used as a ferry. Well, here's the picture of the Russian Tuapse port. If before this part was targeted by the drone boat, which is used for the oil supplies, well, this time Ukraine hit the other part, mostly responsible for grainy cargo. Maybe coal also out there, could be metals. As for the grain, Russia doesn't use this port, they have the other one in Sochi. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian drone army commander Magyar says that Ukraine has absolutely everything to cause severe, massive blackouts on Russian territory. Awesome. And I would say that Ukraine is pretty much effective with that. For example, those are the FP1 drones. They hit some of the energy facilities on occupied territories, even though it's not the direct military infrastructure, but it serves for the military purpose of the Russian Federation. Actually, everything serves out there for Russian army in occupied regions of Ukraine. There were multiple of the strikes on those facilities done by Ukrainian drone operators, and FP1 drones from Firepoint company play very great role here. All of the areas from that video were geolocated and confirmed by our OSINTs. Striking the infrastructure which has been used by Russia and also Russian logistics is the priority for Ukraine in this war in general. Yes, on my other channel, Captain Dennis, today I recorded the video about the New York Times article relative to Firepoint company that produces Flamingo. The guys really followed the Russian narrative, so I tried to debug them. This video was kind of the minor one, so I didn't want to upload it on the main channel, but you may check it out following this channel. It is also available in the video description just below. This channel I have just for random content, but sometimes I publish Ukrainian-related information there. If you want to follow, you are very welcomed. As for Russia, yesterday there were multiple of the drone strikes in different areas. Again, Oryol city for the second day consecutive, Belgorod Oblast, in Moscow region, the Russians reported that they've intercepted absolutely everything. By the way, about Tuapse, Russian officials reported that those were the drone debris which hit one of the vessels and port infrastructure. And by the way, they report about the damages down to the oil lines in the port. Well, it's kind of interesting. Judging on the videos, definitely something big was burning there. Could be oil, and the oil was also found in the waters, which is kind of bad for ecology perspective, but the aim for Ukraine is to cancel the Russian oil export, applying drone sanctions. To survive, Ukraine is forced to act like that. It's like with putting those donkeys on the front lines. Ukraine doesn't want to do it, of course, but donkeys are being used by Russians, so Ukraine had to do this unpopular move. But let's continue with the good news. Ukraine received some Patriot systems from Germany. Finally, it was officially announced today that 2 of the systems were just delivered. Well, of course, Ukraine needs more of the systems, but for now what we have is great. Thank you, Germany, and thank you, United States of America, as well, because it was the deal between USA and Germany to supply those systems to Ukraine, and I hope that USA will soon supply the same systems to Germany. Very nice deal, and Ukraine crucially needs those. I'm sure that right away they will be put on duty to protect Ukrainian skies. Great, especially when we know about some of the losses of those launchers and radars in Ukrainian army. At least last year it was confirmed. This year Russia also presented some of the drone images, but it's definitely hard to tell whether those were decoys or not, because Ukraine also produced the decoys of RSC Patriot. Those were placed elsewhere, usually in the open fields, to trigger the Russian attention. But maybe sometimes those could be even real systems. Oh, Turkey started to buy more non-Russian oil after latest Western sanctions, sources say. This information comes from Reuters, so it confirms the severity of those sanctions applied by Donald Trump. Wow, why the previous White House administration didn't do that step? Kind of weird, but what we have now is good, and I just hope that Donald Trump will start the support of Ukraine military directly. That's the next step. I didn't expect those sanctions to be applied. It was a surprise maybe for not me, but for many of the analytics, it happened. And many of the countries, they're now begging United States of America to relieve those sanctions, like, for example, Bulgaria or maybe Hungary, Slovakia, because they are very dependent on the Russian oil. But Donny says, no, sanctions are still there, and just purchase American oil, guys. Well, maybe that was the reason for Donald Trump to apply those sanctions, but I think it was like personal attitude between him and Putin. He just couldn't forgive how Putin played him, and he applied those sanctions just to show Putin his place. Maybe it is working. But still we see that Putin doesn't want to stop this war no matter what. It doesn't mean whether Trump is the president, Joe Biden, or someone else. Putin has his goal and he wants to achieve it. And unfortunately, the situation in Pokrovsk may encourage Putin even more to continue with his special military operation. He might think that the goals are out there. He is sure that the Ukrainian army has already been encircled. Yeah, Ukrainian army is in a very bad situation in Pokrovsk, and we're going to review that with you right now. But from the full encirclement, it's far away. Nevertheless, you can see that the Myko 73 analytic publishes the new data, so Russia propels with their main forces, taking the southern outskirts of Pokrovsk, and also there was the sabotage attack, which was conquered by Ukrainian drone operation. The link where you may find this map from the Myko 73 you may find in the video description just below. I always use it in my videos. Thank you, Mykos, for your precise analytics. And here we go with the place of Ukrainian Gur landing operation using UH-60 helicopters. I told about it yesterday. Well, and as for today, I don't have more details to say about this one. Hopefully tomorrow we're gonna find out what actually happened. But for now, that's only what I mentioned yesterday. I think this attack was conducted in a clumsy manner and didn't bring any sort of the profit for Ukraine. It is not just me. Many of the analytics, they speak like that, and it is truth. Looks like truth. The Deep State also comes out with their updates, so here we have the Russian infiltration just into the central part of Pokrovsk. Well, here the gap between the red areas is almost 8 kilometers, but if we check out the gray area, it's very narrow, almost 3 kilometers, so very, very tight. The depth of the possible encirclement is roughly 12 kilometers, could be 10 for Suhiyar, and just imagine walking that distance under the constant drone strikes. I guess something should be done immediately for our guys to evacuate. Well, we know about the Ukrainian counterattack attempts in this region, an attempt to widen up this bottleneck to withdraw the forces properly, but it should have been done a long time ago, maybe even the last week. In Ukrainian media and Telegram channels, there was the information about the 32nd Ukrainian Brigade, the command of which didn't report the proper information to the high military command of Ukraine, and they were responsible for the southern area of Pokrovsk. Well, I don't know whether it's true or not, but definitely some of the strange signals were coming from the command of this entire region. At first, the spokesman said that Russians were spotted in Myrnograd. Later on, command itself said that spokesman is not correct. Russians are not in Myrnograd. Then we saw Russians with our own eyes on the drone videos presented and published in internet. So Russians, after all, are in Myrnograd, spotted taking some of the buildings. So this kind of the reckless information is being delivered to public. We don't know whom to trust, what is happening out there. The main thing What we understand is to save the lives of Ukrainian soldiers, to get them out of here safely. And honestly, guys, in this situation, I wouldn't even wait for the order. Just grab your things and leave. It is evident that Russians may encircle this entire area. I'm telling like that because even Ukrainian volunteers are calling Ukrainian soldiers to evacuate themselves. It's already evident what might happen in the coming days in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd direction. And as you see, judging on this gap, it's a very, very bad situation for Ukrainian army out there. It's time to withdraw at least to this road from this southern area. Well, in the northern area, this is Dobropila direction, we have some of the good news. Ukraine there is on a counterattack, and the enclave of the Russian army is now very, very tiny small. Russians wasted tons of their resources to take Vladimirivka and Shakhov and failed with that. This one I took from Robke, a journalist of Bild, and he confirms that with visual image from the drone camera. Robke also tells about the limited success of the Ukrainian army in the area where Ukraine landed special forces on those helicopters. But for me right now it's hard to confirm that information because I haven't seen the fresh drone videos from this area. I wonder what he uses to show that. But I understand that the idea of Ukrainian army is to push harder on the flanks to let our guys out. That's the main reason. And as usual, Dnipro-Zaporizhia front lines, Russia takes the ground every freaking day. Novogrigorivka village was fully occupied and Russians propelled by some of the distance here. Just for the last couple of days, they gained almost 3 kilometers. That's quite fast. And they're very close to reach this river and the main defense goes here. So probably, yeah, they will occupy this entire place between the road and this river, I think in a couple of months, maybe even this year. And the battle for Pokrovsk is just imminent. If they occupy it, the further goal is to go to Zaporizhia for Russians. As you might see, Zaporizhia is not that far away already from those front lines. It might look distant, but no, actually not. Kupiansk front lines, there were no major changes for the last several days. So 2 major hotspots right now, Pokrovsk and Dnipropetrovsk-Zaporizhia area, where Russians are the most active. Some new types of the Russian tanks were spotted on the front lines. Now there are lots of those wires, if you make, or cables, yeah, metal cables. As you might see, they're all around the tank. Also, it has the demining plug, very, very protected vehicle. And so I think that it's impossible to penetrate this wire defense. The only way is to access the front part. There is simply no way. Because of this thickness, yeah, it's impossible now to hit the tank from the top. Maybe Javelin could potentially penetrate it, but I'm not sure. The standard RPG shells cannot do it. And it looks like that the top part is maneuverable, judging on this gap. Yeah, you can see. So they may rotate the turret, they may use the tank as the tank, not as the hangar fixed turret vehicle. It is something really new. Ukraine and Russia are making those not for Mad Max cosplays, but for the tanks to survive longer. And we see more and more of those vehicles. Wires, after all, it seems like the work. That's why Russians put them on everything. And Ukrainians too. I saw Ukrainian vehicles also with those wires. Yeah, people may laugh about this style, but it's better to be funny than that, and practice shows that it definitely works. For example, this is a Konstantinovka direction, a Leopard 1 tank that was absolutely kaboomed. If it had that kind of the armor, this situation probably was possible to avoid. Luckily, crew was not in the vehicle by the time it was kaboomed. However, inside there were some of the shells, and the armor of this tank is very, very thin, so those rods, wires, or whatsoever cages there must have on Leopard 1. But in this case, the protection was kind of weak. Oh my god, Putin. Putin was betrayed by his Serbian colleague Vucic. Vucic, you should have been pro-Russian, you know. What are you doing? You visited the Russian military parade, and now what? You want to sell Ukraine weapons? Good move. Yes, it is an official information. Serbia is willing to sell its weapons to European Union countries, even if that weapon goes to Ukraine. Wow, who would have expected that before? Well, actually, there were already some of the photos taken in the Ukrainian army of the Serbian-produced weapons. I guess the first time I saw those photos 3 or 2 years ago, Russians were in shock by the time. Well, the Serbian president said that they don't know anything about it, but now it's like open proposal for European Union to purchase weapons for Ukraine. Nice. A Russian Coast Guard boat with a Wagner flag was spotted very close to Estonian border. It's some sort of the provocation. Should I call it like that? Well, there is one green man, and they already threaten everyone around with this image, but I don't think that it's escalation or something. Just a stupid guy in this boat from the border control, Beregovaya Охрана, yeah, Coast Guard. Obviously, Russians are not planning to invade Estonia using this boat. And guys, now separate thanks for my Patreon supporters and also members of the channel. You are making my job possible. Thank you so much. You may find my Patreon with a link in the video description just below, or press join button to join the membership. And guys, if you don't have this opportunity, no worries, just press your like to this video and subscribe for the channel to boost this video in YouTube algorithms. That also helps me quite a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.